Well, guys, good morning. Good morning. Like Justin said, I'm Nathan Jordan. I'm a creative director and graphic designer and the co-founder of Uproar Concept. It's a creative partnership that's focused on providing dynamic design, photography, and videos that support shared values with our clients and collaborators. And I've been fortunate enough to live and work here in Asheville for 15 years. If you know me, and I hope those of you that don't get to know me a little bit better today, you know that the thing that I value the most is positivity and fostering positive change in the world around me. And wow, there has been a real shortage of positivity in the world around us lately. Due to the pandemic, we exist in a sort of liminal space on a global scale between life as it was and life as it will be. We've been living in what feels like a constant state of change and uncertainty, and there have been many dark times for so many people. And yeah, some of that darkness has even been amplified by this liminal moment. And for somebody like myself who thrives on sharing positivity, it's been difficult to find my light and even more difficult to find ways to share it. But the good news is, despite these challenging times, I've been able to affect positive change through my work and through several wonderful collaborations. So, how'd I do this? There was a simple but profound method I discovered within the liminal space I'd like to share in the hopes that you can be inspired to create positive changes in your world, no matter what the scale. You see, liminal is the in-between. And as a designer, that's a place I work within very often. It's that space between concept and reality. And it was within my work that I found my outlet, a place to share those essential positive vibes I feel the need to broadcast on a nearly daily basis, maybe even an hourly basis. This liminal period of time for me, while dark and also heavy, also provided a much needed quiet space for me to do something that I hadn't allowed myself to do in quite some time. And that was be totally introspective, reprioritize what was most important to me, and discover new sources of inspiration. First, I took time to assess my personal priorities. Then, I sought to develop partnerships and projects that aligned with those priorities. What I learned in these quiet moments within the past 2 incredibly liminal years was that these liminal times had inspired other people to dream about positive change. And in the preceding months, I found opportunities to do the most difficult part, and that was take action. Through these opportunities, me and my collaborators were able to design 3 things that aligned with some of my top priorities. And we're going to share stories about those today. Those are community, equity, and sustainability. 2 of the folks I collaborated with are here with us today, as we already mentioned, and they're going to share their stories of how we work together to create these things. Reggie Tidwell and Michael Pulleen. I'm going to turn the conversation over to them in just a moment, but before I do, I'm going to share a story about sustainability. Now, this story is centered on a campaign, and that campaign was called Leave It Better. It was created in tandem with an amazing committee of volunteers, as well as with the Tourism Authority in Brevard, North Carolina. It was focused on educating visitors to the area about the 7 principles of Leave No Trace, with an acute focus on littering. You see, Brevard is a world-class outdoor adventure destination, and the increase in visitation to the outdoors during the pandemic was accompanied by a dramatic increase in littering and destruction of infrastructure in our public lands. It was an acute problem in Brevard. And the outdoors are near and dear to my heart. They're a place of refuge and inspiration. I love to hike with my family and fly fish and do things like that. And it was one of the first things that came to mind when I took that time to think about my personal priorities. So when this opportunity came my way, I absolutely threw myself at it because it aligned so closely with those priorities. And guys, this was a real challenge. We were tasked with presenting rules, leave no trace rules, and anti-littering rules to visitors to public lands. And those folks are just there to enjoy themselves and have a good time. And when they're presented with rules, they prefer to just ignore them. So I knew in order to be effective, we need to go above and beyond to reach people that might normally ignore these types of rules. A simple and interesting, even well-executed design probably wouldn't be effective. People would most likely just kind of breeze on by. So in order to create the core visual for this campaign, we worked directly with public land managers, the people on the ground, the rangers and the volunteers with nonprofit organizations, to acquire the actual trash that people had discarded in the public lands in Brevard and Transylvania County. Then we took that trash, and I'm talking about bags and bags and bags of trash, and we assembled it. And we allowed it to become actually the hero of the campaign. We made a larger than life visual that nobody would be able to ignore, both in concept and in size. And we called him Trash Squatch. And I'm going to share a visual of Trash Squatch now. The headline for this campaign was, "Let's make trash in public lands as rare as you know who." And as you can imagine, Trash Squatch sort of took on a life of his own shortly thereafter. He became not only the core visual for this campaign, but the subject of an interactive exhibit in the visitor center in Brevard. And the posters that you see here were so popular, people were stealing them off the walls. And this campaign, it was so effective, it not only achieved the desired result of reducing littering and better stewardship of the outdoors, but it helped to spur a partnership between Brevard and the state of North Carolina, as well as the national Leave No Trace organization. And now North Carolina has its own Leave No Trace campaign and a formal partnership with the National Leave No Trace organization on a statewide level. They're the first state on the East Coast to do this. The sustainability efforts have continued to grow in Brevard, and I'm so energized by the great work that they continue to do and the momentum they've been able to generate throughout that campaign. I believe that much of that success can be attributed to acting and collaborating within the liminal time, when a need was presented and dramatic action was taken to support our shared values. Now, I'd like to introduce Reggie Tidwell. He's the president of AIGA Asheville, and he's going to talk about how we collaborated to design community by founding a chapter for the city of Asheville and the incredible work that he continues to do with that organization. Reggie, take it away.
Thanks, Nathan. And man, Trash Squatch is awesome. What a great concept. What a great solution. So, Nathan talked about affecting positive change as his outlet when he found himself in a liminal space. And for me, my liminal space, though I didn't know this at the time, was community. So I used to serve on the AIGA board for St. Louis. And I moved to Asheville in 2003. And almost immediately when I landed here, I thought to myself, where are my people? Like, something really big is missing from my life. And it's a thing that for me inspired connection. It inspired, it was a source of moral support. It was a source of people that just got it. They knew, I didn't have to really convey to them what I was going through, because they were all going through the same thing, because they're like-minded, they're in a similar career, similar field. And so I got here and I thought, where are my people? So immediately I started to have conversations with other creatives in the area. Just for me, the pursuit of community was very satisfying, because through that, I grew my reach. I started to meet people like Jenny Fairs and Jim Bixby from 828 and all these great creatives who have become really close and near and dear. And I love these people. And so, and it was through many of those conversations that we had some preliminary and still very strong things that were created from that pursuit of community, like for instance, the design salon and MAP, Media Arts Project, things that brought people together in a similar space that had similar values, had similar pursuits that could all support each other. And so anyway, fast forward to 2019, when through these other organizations being able to actually foster these snippets of community here and there, the conversation again turned back to AIGA chapters, which was what I wanted to create from the time I landed here, because it was the thing that I missed so much. And we had sort of a feasibility meeting to see if it was time. And Nathan was at the table, Jenny Fairs, Alyssa Phillips, a lot of really brilliant creatives here in the area were sitting around this table, and we were all having this conversation about, one, what does community do for, like, what would Asheville benefit from having this professional organization, this professional community? And it was pretty obvious, it gave us a larger, it connected us into a much larger entity. AIGA National, we're the 75th chapter of the organization. So that means there's a bunch of other chapters across the country that we are connected to or could be connected to. So anyway, we had this feasibility conversation, and unanimously we decided that we were going to pursue a chapter. Now, one of the interesting things about AIGA, and some of these restrictions have been released, but initially you had to have 20 sustaining members in order to even petition for a chapter. Which was, of course, the thing that was the hurdle we had for so many years. We didn't really have enough creatives, one, that we had been able to connect with. And then now in Asheville, we have such a thriving design and creative, professional creative community. But one of the things that was really interesting was that, we set up sort of a signing, sort of a sheet signing event that Jenny Fairs hosted. And we ended up with 40 sustaining members that day. We were able to turn in a list to National to say, we demand to be a chapter, because not only did we blow out the original requirement out of the water, here we are, this really thriving, very vibrant city, wanting to be able to join this larger community. And through that process, we had already discovered that we had community. We had it. It was allowing us to thrive as a creative community. So anyway, for me, community has just become such an important part of my identity. For those of you that know me, you know that I've served and volunteered for LEAF for many years and served as their board president. I'm also involved with the Asheville Area Arts Council. I sit on the Arts Coalition, which is another outlet for me in terms of community and being able to connect with our creative class. I'm on that committee with the lovely Justin Raybuck, who become one of my favorite people. So anyway, just to kind of close up here a little bit, the thing that I've found is that when you are faced with uncertainty, and you're in this liminal space, or you find yourself in this liminal space, this is an opportunity to find your people. Find your people, reach out, get connected, and allow yourself to be lifted up by like-minded individuals that just get it. They understand, they're there. And that, I never would have imagined the importance of community as we rolled into this pandemic, and just how much, having had this AIGA chapter already established right before the pandemic, how significant it would be for our creative community, and seeing how people have continued to connect and grow. So with that, I'm going to kick it back over to Nathan, and thanks for having me, and thanks for letting me share some words.
Here, here, Reggie. Well said. Um, as recently as about 2 months ago, Micah Pulleen came to me with a unique opportunity to share and support a one-of-a-kind event that would revolutionize equity and even accessibility in the outdoors. It was an inaugural event with an extremely tight deadline and an extraordinary purpose. So I'm going to turn it over to Micah now so she can share her story. Micah?
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you all for being here. I'm really grateful to see some familiar faces and to kind of rev back up some Creative Mornings magic. I have been an event producer for a number of years through my business, Catalyst Collaborations. And I have specialized in the outdoor industry primarily. And I had received a call at the beginning of the year from Jason McDougald, who is the executive director of Camp Greer, which is down in Old Fort. And he came to me and described a number of things that were happening in the Old Fort community, primarily a new trail system that's being built, but really putting community and equity at the focus and at the heart of this new project. And then building out circles of community engagement, economic development around that. So he invited me to take the opportunity to build out a new event, putting equity, diversity, inclusion, and representation, well, and accessibility at the heart of this focus, and kind of let the leash out and said, go for it. And so within myself, receiving that invitation was very much what I call the Yesness. And this was the beginning of a series of yeses along the way that really led me to creating this event, co-creating this event. And, you know, of course, based in some of this unrest that we had been experiencing in this country, and race relations there's such an issue that it was a call forward to me to really step into the work that I know I'm meant to do, something that I call capital W work, which is the big work of my life, justice and community, and really using my skill set and my special sauce to be of the greatest service to my community. So I said yes and leaned in. And didn't really know where to start. And so I just started exploring who were the thought leaders, who were the change makers, who were the movers and shakers in the outdoor industry, who were really having those really essential conversations about diversity and equity in the wilderness. And I reached out to a lot of them. I did a lot of cold calls. I did a lot of creeping and just following the breadcrumbs on Instagram and looking at people's websites, and kind of inviting them into this. And one of the questions that I led with, which I felt was really, really pivotal now looking back at it, was asking these folks, these presenters and keynote workshop leaders, I don't really want to know what your scripted speech is or what your basic workshop is. I want to have you bring what is most alive in your work and in your heart. And somehow that was what I think kind of turned the corner. And so that it invited people to be their true authentic selves and to bring that into this space. What also happened, which was really magical, was that certain presenters, certain partners came forward, and that's where I met Nate and Bryn with Uproar. I had worked with both of them in the past, and that was another easy yes of yes, these people are meant to be a part of this process with me in kind of co-creating a space, a gathering, a conversation, and a kind of a collective mission to really move the needle with equity in the outdoors. So along the way, as I got closer and there were more people kind of coming to the table, and more people saying yes to me in buying plane tickets and committing their keynote presentations to this event and building in workshops to help bring to this gathering, I realized there was a great deal of trust that they were having in me. I was actually met with some skepticism who is this white woman asking me to come to this event? And a lot of question and answer that really got to the root of these conversations that needed to be had. So a lot of that was, oh, thank you. So this is a graphic that that Nate created, and of course, echoing the importance of circle and community. So the way that I kind of work in co-creating events is I feel like it's really important to create programming that always points to the mission. And for our purpose with this particular event, what was under equity was a great deal of bravery, authenticity, and vulnerability. And I try to figure out, now, how do we go about doing that from a programmatic standpoint? And so I think it was a huge win that a lot of the folks who I invited into this space, they really did bring their very best selves. There is a picture in this graphic of one of the first panels that we curated on the Friday of the event. It was a 3-day event. And it was moderated and curated by Tracy Hopkins, and she had 4 guests join her on stage, and the conversation was about belonging. And she got really real, which is what Tracy does, if you know her, and invited everybody to just be really uncomfortable and to sit in that discomfort, because what we're talking about for the course of this weekend is really important. And it doesn't come with, it comes with a great deal of rawness, realness, and vulnerability. So we kind of got to the root of these conversations. And another piece that was really meaningful to me was in the co-creation part was I had a council of people. I had a team of folks who were really, really driven by this mission. And so I feel like together we wove this, it's like we wove a basket, we created a container. And then when it came down to the weekend, this event, people really did bring their best selves forward. And so in the conversations that happened, and even on the bike rides and the fly fishing, there was a great deal of connection made. And people reflected back to the circle at the end, at kind of our closing circle, just how much this event meant to them. The equity was really the lens, it was the focus, it was at the center and the heart of what we were talking about. It wasn't an afterthought. It wasn't an add-on to another summit or conference talking about the outdoors or the economy or really anything. It was the pulse. And so at the end of this gathering, I was thinking, I was sitting under a tree with the golden light coming through the leaves, like, wow, what just happened? What did we do here? And I don't feel like I get to take credit for a lot of it, but I feel like it was very much a group process. I was one of our keynotes, Chad Brown, said, Micah, you really do things with such surgical precision, which I do. I do pour a lot of heart and love into curating an event and kind of obsessively living in spreadsheets and timelines and all that. So there's this surgical piece that I do, but then there's also this, it's almost a spiritual piece. And there's this integration or intersection between the two. There's this both andness that I can't not identify. I can't name it. I can't put my finger on it, but it is this alchemy, this magic that we are all capable of creating when we listen to our intuition, we follow the yeses within us. We reach out to people and we invite them into this container, and then we surrender. Like that is what is so necessary in this work, is at some point we don't have control. At some point it is not about us. It's not about me, it is about us. So I think what I invite is for us all to really live into this space within us, this deep inner knowing, this resonance, this intuition, but also to go forward and invite that out of other people, and then hold space for what happens when we come together. So I also want to thank the team of people who helped me with this event in Old Fort. I think it was very much a team creation. It was much more about collaboration than a one person doing this. And I really thank Nate and Bren for holding down the fort with me on the tight deadline too. So thank you all.
Awesome, Micah. Thank you. So guys, I think it goes without saying that these have all been really wonderful stories of how the liminal space actually provided opportunities for things like change and connection, positivity, trust, and inspiration. These partnerships that we've talked about today created community, equity, and sustainability, I think, because I took time to, one, assess my personal values and decide what's most important to me. Two, I sought out partnerships that could support those values. And three, and most importantly, I acted on those opportunities presented by those partnerships, even when the challenges seemed massive and the scale larger than life. So in closing, I'd like to leave you with this. I'd like to ask everyone to take time, when you're ready, to explore those 3 steps in your own life to make a positive change, no matter what the scale. It can be tiny, just in your community, within your work, within your family. Act within the liminal. Find the positive change that matters to you and make it real. Thank you.